All right. Hello, can you hear me? Good afternoon, everybody. Wonderful to see you all. It's even standing room only, so we are delighted to welcome you to this event. I was hesitating a bit to kick it off because the two most important people, Paul and Carlos Manuel, are still tied up and are on their way here. But I don't want you to wait, so let's kick it off. The reason why we're here is because we want to launch Eliminating the Invisible, the GEF's Global Elimination Program for PCBs. I thought the video was absolutely terrific. So I'd ask you for a round of applause for those who put that video together. Thank you. Because it tells a really powerful story. It's a really powerful story. This has been going on since 30, 40, 50 years that we begin to understand that the PCBs, while they have terrific value in industry, cause a huge amount of damage to humans and to the environment and to the ecosystems. And we have been aware of that. That's why we have the convention. That's why all of you are here. We need to find a way to eliminate them everywhere. And this is the goal. And for that, when we were approached at the World Bank, we've of course been following this as well for a long period of time. When we were approached to be helpful, we immediately said, well, maybe we can link this. We can link this much more directly to what we are doing. And so we thought that the link with our energy program is an absolute, essential one. And so we're mobilizing up to $1 billion in the pipeline going forward in several countries to actually link the GEF grant with our energy improvement programs. There's an obvious link, as you have seen in the video. So we hope to be a major contributor in really achieving that fundamental goal. It's a long way to go, as we all know. There is a lot of hope, there is a lot of desire, there is a lot of examples. We have pilots, we know what needs to be done, we know how to do it, but we're not spending significant enough resources to get it done. And so this is one of those events where we hopefully can hear from everyone how we can drive this agenda forward in a meaningful way. Because if we don't go to scale, we will not be done by 2028. We all know that. And I want you to hear a commitment from the World Bank that we will do what is within our means over the years going forward, because it hurts people, it hurts the environment, and it hurts the economy as well. So we need to act on this. With that, let me hand it over to the man behind the BRS Secretariat. Rolf, the floor is yours. Do you want to speak from here, or I kind of don't want to sit there looking at the audience?
I'll join, follow your style. Good afternoon, everyone. And of course, this is one of the highlights of the COPs, because we really have made significant progress over the last few years in moving forward the elimination of PCBs. And as Jürgen has said, we have been working very, very hard to meet the GEF deadlines, to meet the World Bank requirements. But I think we are there. Now we need to make it work in practice. So I think the biggest hurdle was for us to get the GEF approval in December. So I'd like to thank the GEF. I think they're in the room here for their rapid approval. And now we have more or less the carte blanche for us to move forward. And I think you mentioned the pilot countries, right? So you already mentioned the pilot countries. Now, what was really unique about this opportunity is probably for the first time, we've used a Stockholm chemical to unlock, I would say, millions of dollars in another sector, and the energy sector. So I will explain it from a non-banking perspective. Right. Now, these guys have an electricity grid, and as you know, PCBs are found in the transformers. And of course, we need to eliminate the PCBs. And for them to do that, they have to take down the transformer and replace it with a new transformer. That's our side of the picture. On the other hand, many countries have very old grids. So the generator is puffing away, burning fuel, but the grid is inefficient. So the generator is working at 80%, but the person at the end of the village is only getting maybe 10% of the electricity, because your grid is so old and so inefficient. Correct? Now, the other part of the equation is, of course, the investment that is needed to upgrade that grid. And that's a huge investment. And many countries have to go and get loans. And sometimes they get loans with very high interest. And then they simply give up and they continue with the status quo. And with the status quo, you know what happens. Many of us know in the middle of the night, you are busy working on your computer and suddenly the lights go out. We have an outage, right? You know that, right? It's because the generator can't provide electricity because everybody's got their computers on, everybody's got their washing machine on, everybody's ironing. The grid cannot cope with that kind of thing. So what the people do, and probably many of you would have done in those countries, you go down to the shop and you get a small generator, you fill it up with kerosene or diesel or whatever, and you put it in the corner, you start it, and then you are happy, you get light. But those small generators are also emitting emissions, carbon monoxide, carbon dioxide, and other nitrous oxides, sulfur oxides, and possibly other chemicals. And this, if you put it in the wrong place, close to your home, the kids are breathing into it. It's inefficient, and of course, it's not healthy. I'm parking that other problem there. You understand where I'm going with this? Now, we are also talking about renewable energy. That's the other aspect of the issue. And our grids, the old grids, cannot deal with the sun comes in and shines on the solar panel, then the cloud comes, and then the power goes down, and the generator has to start again to provide the necessary power. Or if we have wind energy, the wind comes and then the wind stops. Correct? So we need modern grids to be able to deal with this kind of up and down power of renewable energy. So it makes wise investment for your country if you really want to go into energy transition to start thinking about renewing your grid. It's not only about installing a nice solar farm, a nice wind farm, because if you cannot distribute that energy for being used, forget it. You will have nice wind farm, but the electricity will not reach the village or the city where you want it. So that's the whole picture. And in comes then the PCB, which is seen now as a risk. Because when the utility company takes down the transformer, they don't have the expertise to deal with PCB. It's a toxic chemical. So they put it in a cave, they put it in a shed, and then the government ends up to pay for the disposal tomorrow. So what we've done is now we work with the World Bank and other agencies, and we've combined your grid upgrade together with the elimination of PCBs. So the GEF comes in and takes care of the elimination of PCBs, and your utility company comes in with a soft investment from the World Bank and upgrades your grid. So what are the benefits that comes out of it? So sorry, I'm taking some time, but I think it's important to understand how we manage to put this together. So the first thing is you get rid of PCB. Second thing is you upgrade your grid. And if you upgrade your grid today, which is an old grid, you get more efficiency, which means for every unit of kilowatt, okay, I won't go into that. For every unit of energy you produce, you're gonna get the maximum, out of that energy. So which means you get efficiencies in the grid. You also get reliability in the grid. So the grid does not collapse when demand is very high for electricity. So because it's a modern grid. Thirdly, you can then plug now your solar power, your wind power into that grid. So we have actually now combined the need to address climate change, which is reduction of emissions, together with elimination of a chemical. You follow me now? Thank you. I see a lot of nods. So we've cracked it. Now, the key issue, of course, is we need data. We need data on the PCBs. What are the contamination levels? Because that will influence the cost. And also we need data on your energy production and on your grid. And this is where we start now working with government, with the utility companies to get all this data. And then together with the expertise in the World Bank, we develop then the investment model. So countries who are ready, let us know. We are ready to help you and to support you, combining the elimination of PCBs at the national level together with the upgrade of your grid. So that's why Jürgen has been telling you, maybe it costs us 50,000 or no, 2 million to eliminate your PCB, but then your investment in your grid is 50 million. And we've been able to co-mobilize those resources. At the end, the country comes out with a much more efficient grid and also elimination of PCBs. So I think I've spoken enough. I don't know whether you have any questions, but this is a fantastic partnership and a fantastic opportunity. And of course, we will now like to scale it up. And I said in my speech, my target is $1 billion and go beyond. So help me achieve this target and help me achieve the DDT elimination target of 2028. It's not a long time for us. At the same time, we help you achieve your national target of improving your grid and the transition towards a new energy future. Thank you very much. Jürgen.
Terrific job. Stay here. Don't go away. Maybe we have some questions. I mean, this is clear. This can only be done in partnerships, right? We cannot do it alone. You cannot do it alone. So we work with UNEP, we work with UNDP, we work with the African Development Bank to get these pilot countries rolled out. We need to work with everyone. From the World Bank perspective, we are ramping up our investment going forward in grid optimization and grid improvement, because as the world moves towards an energy transition, as you so eloquently pointed out, Rolf, grid efficiency is key. And then you have this win-win-win, as you just laid out. That's why we're interested, because it's a win-win-win for everyone. And as he said, please approach him, approach us, approach anyone in this partnership if you're interested in being engaged in this. This is an open invitation. So I hope after this meeting, and we have a little reception, I think the drinks are not here yet, so you have to bear with us for a little bit. But afterwards, there is opportunity. Our team is here. They stand on the sidelines. Just talk and get a feel for, what it takes to get a proposal through the system, share some lessons learned, etc. Now, I understand Carlos Manuel is still tied up at the moment, but he will join us shortly. But I don't want you to wait, so I'm going to ask Paul from the European Commission, who is knee-deep into this topic as well, to take over as a moderator, and then we'll maybe do the first panel, and Carlos Manuel can come in a bit later. Thank you. Over to you, Paul.
Okay, many thanks. Thanks very much for that inspiring introduction, which I think gives you a feel for the really practical things we can do on this. Before I invite the panel to take their seats, I just wanted to say that at the European Commission, we are very much committed to all of this work on the PCB elimination. Already in 1976, this was one of the first pieces of environmental legislation that we ever passed in the European Union, to deal with the PCB problem. And we see that we see it really as very important that although we are spending quite a lot of time in the COP on some of these newer emerging problems, it's equally important that we work on the implementation of the previous commitments that we have made, and that we deal with what are, in some areas, the problems of the past, but in some areas really still relevant. And so it's really, we want to work on implementation as well as we want to be forward-looking. We are also very committed to helping parties with safe disposal and with phase out. We have a long track record of funding. We have tried to put our money where our mouth is. And we are very, very happy with our latest funding efforts to the BRS Secretariat, which has really helped set up this successful GEF bids. And now we are very happy with this GEF outcome. So I would like to invite now the panelists to the podium. So we first have Jacqueline. Sure. He's coming. He's great. Okay, excellent. Perfect. Thank you. Okay, super. So we have Jacqueline Alvarez, who is the Chief of Branch, Industry and Economy Decision, please, at UNEP. She's a chemist by training, and she has served 14 years with the government of Uruguay and as Regional Director of the Basel and Stockholm Coordinating Center for Latin America and the Caribbean. Then I understand that we have His Excellency, the Vice Minister of Environment and Climate in Brazil. He's here, great. Minister, thank you very much. So I'm afraid I don't have a bio for you, but I'll let you introduce yourself. And we heard, of course, from you earlier. It was great. Then we have Chandrasekhar Govindarajalu, who is practice manager for the World Bank Energy Sector Management Assistance Program. He has over 20 years of experience leading programs on energy efficiency, energy access, renewable energy, and climate change across Asia, Middle East, and Northern Africa. And we have Anil Bruce Sugdeo, who is the GEF's coordinator and team lead. Not here, not yet. Okay, maybe later. And maybe we will also have one more minister later. We will see, as a nice surprise. Okay. So let's start with the panel. And I'd like to turn to you first, Jacqueline, to set a bit the scene. So, of course, Jacqueline, UNEP has worked on PCB for many years and in many countries. Please tell us a little bit about UNEP's experience and what can we do better to make this really crucial 2028 goal?
Thank you for the opportunity, and it's really very exciting to be here. I was thinking some time ago that the first time I got into the acronym of PCB, I had no clue what it meant, or in reality what the impact of the PCBs were. And today, knowing and understanding it better, it's still shocking that we have to deal with it. But there is a solution. We all want here to make PCB history, that's for sure. And what Rolf is describing is, in our view, a real market shift. So it's a very different way of looking the situation we have and turning something that might have been very difficult to deal with into something positive. And that's exactly what the description of what Rolf was saying and what the World Bank and Partners project really is. We have been hearing a lot, and if we switch on the TV or look at the news, profits, no market failures. We really need jobs to be created, and this is the model that we have to go through. So why I'm saying that? Because sometimes we tend to repeat some of the things that we have been doing over the years, expecting those things can be having different results. So I'd like maybe to highlight few areas or elements where we already know are subject to maybe not the success that we want. And on the other hand, how can we really move and use those opportunities as learning experiences? One, Rolf was saying very clearly, data, right? We have been looking at inventories, how long, and they are still not accurate. Do we still put emphasis on that? Well, we have to know and we have to understand, because that will make the difference between something that it is profitable and something that will have or bring us to a market failure. So that's one thing. We still need to take the picture and understand the situation that we have in countries. But PCB also goes beyond that. It goes into the opportunities of changing the way that governments think, the way that industry think, the way that innovators think. So, and that's also in a way a transformational change that we need to address. When we talk about investing, the first thing that comes into the minds of people is debts. We cannot afford any more debts, but making the equation that yes, you might be investing, but you will get benefits that are really, really high is very important. Over the years, we have also developed some methodology on how to assess those cost benefits, and that's part of what this project will be telling. So nothing is perfect, but it also requires strong regulatory approaches with legislation or with policies that are also different. It's not acting on the chemicals, but it's acting for addressing the chemicals problems. And this is exactly what we need to do here for the PCBs. So the market shifts, the market's transformation. And I was just reflecting when I was hearing Rolf, this is the example, and this is the way to think, not only for PCBs and the electrical side of the story, the generation of energy, but for other chemicals as well. If we can really make the case that changing the way we are doing things, we are still creating jobs, we're still keeping the level of development that we need, we are saving lives and we are contaminating less, then that's a done deal. And this is what this project is putting all of us in front of. So very, very thrilled and excited to be part of this thinking group and to support and help not only in the implementation, but in really celebrating afterwards with cake, champagne, fireworks, I don't know. But that's the aim. 2028, we're looking forward to it.
Okay, oops, maybe two to the... Okay, great. Thank you very much. That's super inspiring. And indeed, that would be, it's coming towards us, this deadline. But as you say, deadlines can be positive because when we make them, we will feel so good. You're absolutely right. So now if I could give the floor to the Vice Minister, and if you could tell us a little bit about the experiences you've had in Brazil with PCB, some of the main challenges and any recommendations maybe for other countries that are thinking about joining the GEF, that kind of thing. Thank you.
Wonderful. It's a great pleasure to be here with all of you once again. Well, since late 80s, we all know that PCBs have been making really harm as a pop, and it was prohibited to use PCBs to produce electrical transformers and all the electrical equipments in Brazil. But of course, we have a very old energy grid, and we were not sure so much how much of these PCBs were there. So back in 2013, at the National Council of Environment, there was an effort to approve a resolution which would do a little inventory and make it mandatory for the companies to destroy it safely. At that time, it was difficult with the industry, all the stakeholders, and it wasn't able to approve. So when the minister did its first NEP for Stockholm back in 2015, it wasn't that clear the amount of PCB that would be available in Brazil. So the first estimates that were done were only 15,000 tons, 15,000 tons. Okay, that's what at that time the first inventory was done. Then the minister started to do its inventory a little bit, try to be a little bit better to do the inventory because it was very difficult to get this information for the companies. So in the following years, 16, 17, 18, it was very hard to get this information. So at that time, the minister, together with the government, all the government, decided with Minister of Energy, and we approved the bill in Congress. And this bill made it mandatory for all the companies in Brazil to reply to this inventory, to fulfill the information, to stop using it by 2025, and to have a destination of responsible destination of this PCB by 2028. And we gave them some time. The deadline was November last year, 24th of November last year. So when the inventory at the end came to be complete, of course, everybody was very, impressed by the numbers. Throughout this process, this exactly when the GEF process started. At the time, it was a GEF donation of $9 million. So it helped to do the training, 52,000 professionals, 10,000 companies. So create all the manuals, help desk, like an online telephone that people could call and take all their news, know about the program. So we had the registration of everybody, and at the end, Brazil had 750,000 tons. So 36 times more than it was expected in the beginning. So in just in these last 2 years, already, majority of them happening these last 2 years, we already destroyed safely 252,000 tons, something like 404,300 equipments. And now we have already this more 550,000 tons to be destroyed by the private sector. The private sector pays it because we approved the bill, of course, to make it mandatory. And together with this resource from GEF, 9 million, we were able to lever extra $62 million of the private sector. So I think 7-8 times more of the resources. And this money has been used besides the training, and do all the engagement, all the manuals, all the things. It's going to be a way to support those equipments that are would be harder to be destroyed. Because basically we have 5 places in Brazil that we can sustainably destroy it, decommission chemically. 4 of them are in the southeast of Brazil, where we have, São Paulo, Rio, Belo Horizonte, like the big cities, the big factories. So this one, the private sector by itself can do. Have one in the northeast too, but we don't have any facilities in the north at the Amazon region. So most of this resource will help to finance a part of the cost from these equipments that are far away, that the transportation cost, even to guarantee the transportation. So the project negotiated with these places where you could decommission, stabilize the price. If he did it under our project, he would get a discount on the average price. So if he didn't join the project, he would have to pay by himself later more expensively. So I think this was probably an incentive for many people to come on board. And now the project itself will try to guarantee that, universities, hospitals, or, stakeholders that are far away and will be very difficult for them to do it. So we feel that we'll be on track to eliminate all the PCB. I think 95% of the PCB are on electrical equipments, mainly the transformers and others. So hopefully we'll be able, by 2028, finish this 750,000 homes. I was seeing one of the things there that they say, like, globally we have 700,000 to be destroyed globally. So, well, just Brazil we have 750,000. I think we need to update those numbers there. But well, we were only able to update our inventory because also we approved on a bill in Congress. So the federal government pushed it because there were negotiations at the National Chamber of Environment, private sector, come here, we are friends, let's do together, we like each other. It didn't work. So at the end, you have to use the power of the government to push for the bill. And after it was approved, they came all on board because it was better for them to do it.
Thank you very much, Minister. I think that's really a couple of excellent lessons in there, both for the public and private sector working together. I think that's a really important lesson. And indeed, a lesson which we also learn in the EU is that sometimes carefully targeted regulation really does the job. So let's take then the third speaker. So Chandrasekhar, of course, the World Bank is not a new partner in pollution management. We rely on you. But please tell us a bit about why this energy linkage, this energy angle is so important and why it opens some new opportunities.
Thank you, Chair. It's a real pleasure to be here and talking on a topic that is close to my heart in terms of the energy aspects of it. We are not new to the energy and environmental linkages, all the way from air pollution through because of combustion of coal and biomass, all the way to now the new problems of recycling and reuse of batteries that may come in the future and solar panels. So there is a number of touch points between energy and environment, and PCB is definitely right in the middle of that. A problem that has been around for many years. And it seems now we are at a point where a last but a big push is needed in the next couple of years to make it go away, make this problem go away. So I'm, of course, most thankful to Rolf for his leadership in championing this program of this last push. And although our GEF colleague is not here, very thankful to GEF for supporting this cause. I hope the money will be here, even though they are not here. But the issue is that these transformers are not only causing extreme levels of environmental risk and pollution, but they're also, as Rolf mentioned, the efficiency levels of these equipment are so low that they need to go away anyway. I mean, otherwise the challenge of reaching the people that don't have access and integrating renewables and all the good things that energy brings for the economic growth cannot be achieved. So let me delve a little bit into that. So at that level, it seems like an economically very sound program to do. The economic benefits, cost benefits, mentioned. Of course, it'll be great to do this. But let's also look at the energy side in a little bit detail. Now, on the energy side, the utilities that have to champion this, and most of the problem of PCBs is in the developing countries that are among the least developed in many cases. So the utilities are often, not financially viable. They are struggling to provide electricity, on a reliable and affordable basis, and lacking in investments, critical investments that are needed. So we have to put ourselves in that context while we think about how this problem will be solved. So in that situation, we need to look at all the possible solutions, options, which is maybe replacing the transformer oil, replacing the transformer oil or diluting the transformer oil also, and finally replacement of transformers. All are possible. Brazil has done an amazing job, it seems, but we are not in the same situation in many of the countries that a pure mandate or a policy mandate will alone make it work, which is where the GEF program will be very effective in providing that additional incentive and support to countries to do that. However, we need the full array of menu of options that are there, and we need to look at their technical viability, financial viability, and most importantly, the ones that can provide the least amount of disruption to the operators of the energy system, in which case this PCB removal will be very, very smooth and easy. So that's the challenge ahead of us in the coming months, to sort these options carefully and to see what is viable and what can be scalable in that sense. So that's what we're going to be doing. And then what makes it interesting from an energy sector perspective is also that the World Bank and together with AfDB has launched the M300 initiative, which is a landmark energy access program targeted at sub-Saharan Africa to bring electricity to 300 million people by 2030, which fits well within the framework of the PCB removal program of 2028. So with that push from the World Bank Group and the AfDB, the investments available for grid strengthening, refurbishment of systems will be significant. So we can sort of ride on that, support as well, and to bring this catalytic support from GEF alongside, and look, and in the meantime, develop these cookie cutter approaches that, that will be easily appealing to our donors and then, to our countries. In the meantime, there is global experience from Brazil, from Egypt, from other countries that can be brought together to put those options on the table that can be viable technically and, financially. Yeah, we're really looking forward. First two countries are Madagascar and Nigeria, and I'm sure there is a very strong interest among many of you, and we really look forward to working with you. Ultimately, it is the energy ministers and the environment ministers that have come together, the utilities and the environment authorities that have come together, work together to make this viable. One anecdote I remember from my days in working on energy efficiency, the famous problem that, people living in rented buildings have little, incentive to invest in really high cost energy efficiency solution. The low cost ones like LED lamps, they'll do. But when it comes to changing the HVAC system or the air conditioner, there's a case of split incentives, and we need to bring the parties together and make sure that they work together. And that can happen only if you understand each other's position very carefully and closely. With that, I'll close my remarks. Thank you so much.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. And I think I took away at one really important point that you made in there, and there were a number of important points, but indeed, as you say, a lot of this equipment, it's had its day anyway, right? I mean, it's on the way out. So here is really the opportunity to get rid of the obsolete equipment and bring something in, solve an environment and an energy efficiency problem on the same occasion. I think that's now is the good time. Okay, great. So I think with this is let's take with the panel we have, let's take some questions from the floor. So I guess there's a microphone somewhere. Do we have another? There's a few. So if you'd like to just pose your questions directly to the panel, you can either ask somebody in particular or please, the minister.
Bon, je parle en français. Hein.
Ok.
Je suis désolé. Alors, je voudrais d'abord saluer les initiateurs de cet événement, qui est un événement important sur une matière qui est extrêmement importante, les PCB. On sait dans nos pays quel est l'impact de ces produits sur l'environnement et sur la santé humaine. Je salue aussi les panélistes qui ont partagé leur expérience et donné des pistes de solutions à la résolution de ce problème. Ma question est liée un peu à l'objectif temporel qui a été donné, 2028. Ça fait deux ans et demi. La question de l'élimination de ces PCB pose deux problèmes. D'abord, les fabricants. Est-ce que les fabricants de ce type de matériel qui génère les PCB ont le même degré de sensibilisation que vous et nous qui sommes ici? En général, à ces forums, les fabricants ne sont pas là.
Ouais.
Voilà. C'est nous qui subissons, qui sommes là.
Ouais.
Est-ce qu'ils ont le même degré de sensibilisation? Deuxièmement, nos États, avec les maigres moyens, essaient de se mettre aux normes. On élabore des stratégies, on met en place des projets, mais les défis qui existent sont énormes. Défis réglementaires, défis d'infrastructure, défis de sensibilisation. Tous ces défis méritent une coopération internationale et un soutien. C'est en cela que j'apprécie l'engagement du GEF et de la Banque mondiale de faire en sorte que ce projet aboutisse à travers des appuis certainement financiers qu'ils vont donner, parce que le renouvellement des réseaux, comme vous l'avez dit, coûte extrêmement cher. Tous les États aujourd'hui ne peuvent pas se payer le luxe de renouveler le réseau. Je termine par cette question aux financiers. S'il s'agit de renouveler le réseau, comment ça va se passer? Est-ce que c'est des prêts qu'on va faire aux États? Est-ce que c'est des prêts qu'on va faire aux structures qui gèrent les réseaux électriques dans nos pays? Parce qu'en général, ces réseaux électriques sont gérés par le secteur privé. En tout cas, merci beaucoup de m'avoir écouté. Je vous remercie.
Oui. Merci beaucoup, Monsieur le ministre. Donc, le ministre de...
Je suis le ministre de l'Environnement de Côte d'Ivoire.
The Côte d'Ivoire, Ivory Coast. Okay, so if I'll just quickly translate. So the minister first thanked the panelists, and then he wanted to ask 3 questions in particular. First, he wanted to ask, are the producers of this equipment, so the transformers, the equipment containing the PCB, are they also implicated? You know, is there any kind of polluter pays? You know, are they implicated in this work? Secondly, he wanted to stress the very important, there's a big challenge for one country on its own, and therefore the importance of working in collaboration and then really to work together with the GEF and with the different countries, because he noted that it's a big challenge to be ready for 2028, which is in 2.5 years. And then his last question was, how would it work to go into this now GEF program? Is this a loan? And is it a loan to the energy company, who are sometimes more private companies, if I understand well? So I don't know who wants to start on that one. There are various aspects of it. Yeah, maybe the Brazilian minister. Thank you. I think it's, yeah, it's on.
No, just to answer quickly about who our legislation mandated to do the proper destruction, because we did back in the 80s that the manufacturers could not produce anymore electrical equipments, transformers using PCB. So when we came back to the late 200s, where we started doing our implementation plan, the legislation focused on who have the property of this, who had the assets, which were 95% them, energy utilities having big transformers. Brazil has an energy sector which is growing a lot. We have 92% of clean energy on our grid. This sector makes huge investments. Majority of the energy utilities are private, but you still have a lot of them that are public. So the legislation initially target them, the big guys, energy utilities, that they had to take it out. And of course, the legislation has special transitions and for the small guys that owns transformers in different places, in a hospital, in a university, at a public office. But at the end, it was more who had the property. Our EPR systems follows this thing that, of course, the manufacturer have the responsibility on waste. But in this case, no, it was decided that the asset owner would be the responsible to do the replacement.
You want to come? Okay. Oh, okay. On the third question regarding the financing, there is usually the way the World Bank, at least the way we see it working, is that there is a loan from IDA, which is a very highly concessional loan from IDA for the energy operations that we have for network rehabilitation, strengthening, improvement. So that will be the big part. And there will be the GEF as a grant to support the implementation and provide additional incentives, however way they may choose to use that by providing either it could be a part of the cost or technical assistance, or training, buying equipment, because there are a number of options. I mean, in some cases, if the contamination levels are not very high, you can also have the fuel, the oil be replaced with more the cleaner oil. So all those options will be there for the implementation.
Okay, super. And Jacqueline?
Yes, maybe also in relation to the producers. One of the bad things about this, and which is also good, is that PCBs have not been produced for decades. So what we have today are transformers that have been in use with PCBs for very, very long time, because the life expectancy of those transformers is 50, 60 years. And this is what made them so beautiful and so attractive, because you invested and then you needed to maintain. But in reality, you didn't really need to change them. So that's the situation. So here the EPR systems need to be attached not to the producers specifically, but I think what Brazil did on the owners is a very good approach. One of the biggest challenges is the cross-contamination here. So if, for example, the workshops that do reparation of transformers that are not in good shape, and they were PCB free, when they go there, they might get contaminated if the equipments are not correctly cleaned, because the PCBs are really very sticky, to say it in a simple manner, and cross-contamination can happen very easily. So that's a topic that also we cannot track back on where it has been done, because we don't have at this moment the traceability systems that are needed. But that's something very important to prevent for getting the pure PCB into diluted PCB transformers, and then it will be a nightmare.
Yeah.
But yeah, no.
Oh, very important. Okay, great. I think we can still take a couple more, maybe. So any other questions? No. If not, we can turn to the technical. Yeah, a question there for the gentleman. Let's see if we can give him a microphone. If you'd like to just briefly introduce yourself.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm Mr. Kuroma from Sierra Leone, Stockholm focal point. from Sierra Leone. I'm here with 3 other guys, one for Basel, one for Rotterdam. While I was in Lusaka in the preparatory meeting, I saw a notice, this program that few countries have applied. So I immediately took the opportunity. I sent a message that our country will be interested. We'll have stockpiles of PCBs there. We did some inventory and we did our national our NEP in 2007, 2008, 2019 is the last one, but really resources to get rid of these things are not available. So my question is, I did apply, send interest to this group, but I didn't get any reply. However, now that I'm here, how do I get contact? Who do I immediately contact after this to start the process again? Thank you.
Okay, great. Good practical question. I don't know if that's one for someone who's here or maybe someone who's over there. Yeah. Who wants to take Is this another question or are you answering the question?
It's another question.
Another question. Okay, we'll take the two and then we'll find answers. Thank you.
Okay, it's a question and a comment. My name is Patience Whelan. I come from Eswatini. I am the Stockholm Convention focal alternate person. What I'll say my comment is I'm very glad for the presentations that we've had, and I think they are quite enlightening in a lot of matters which have been of concern for me, because I am actually coordinating the PCB elimination project in my country. One of the things which I thought, and I'm actually picking up here, which was a challenge, was that when you do try to actually talk to the utilities and all the equipment owners and try to sell the ideas, and yes, like the deputy minister was saying, we are friends, we are together, we want to do this. There's very little traction that it is taking. The people are telling you this is a real cost. The transformer is still in use, and so on and so forth. So that wasn't really being successful. So I was very happy to hear that until you had a legislation which now was like, this has to be done, that is when there was success. So for me, that's just a comment. And I think for me, it has been like very much enlightening that we need to focus a lot now in actually having a proper legislation that is going to actually address the issue and have the equipment owners taking the responsibility of assisting with proper inventories. Because I was attending the other side event here, and the experience, I think it was from Poland or something? They said they did about 3,000 pole mounted transformers, which was out of 1 million. And they are saying they were working so efficiently. And in that efficient kind of work, they could only do 20 transformers a day. And then he was saying to be able to have done all this equipment, they would need something like, I think did he say 250 years or so, at that rate of 20 transformers per day. So that is been the other question that I have in my mind. How long did it take Brazil to actually perfect their inventory? Did it also include all the transformers? Did it actually include all the pole mounted transformers? How much time did they give to the utilities to actually get that right? Thank you.
Okay, great. So should we take that question quickly, and then I don't know if somebody wants to say, you want to say a couple of words on how they can apply, and then we'll wind up the political, the high level session, and we'll come to the technical panel.
I can say, I mean, for Sierra Leone, we have a strong energy program already ongoing with you. You just write to the country director, World Bank country director, and the World Bank office, then to be part of this program. And we'll also give you more details on how to copy in the global site. So then we can carry this forward.
Okay, super. And then how long did it take in Brazil? Let's yeah, it's big.
Yeah, the inventory, we gave it 3 years to complete all the inventory and started. So in these 3 years, people started doing the inventory, and we had the destination, let's say, in 1.5 years of starting destruction of more than 4,300 equipments. But we still have more 20,000 equipments to do it. And now, because of the new factories doing the decommissioning, supposedly we are going to be on track to finish everything by 2028. Because now, at the end of this year, it finished the deadline for using it. So they have to stop. And majority already are starting to stop, but there's still 10,000 here that they are using until the inventory last year. So they will have to stop this year. But supposedly, they will be able to address everything by 2028.
Okay.
But we have now 5 sites, the factories in Brazil doing this chemical decommissioning of the fluid and of the equipment.
Okay, well, that's a great way to progress because I mean, a big country, obviously. So, okay, did you want to come in quickly?
Very, very quickly. So the program is set up under the GEF to scale up. In the first phase, we have 6 countries in Africa: Nigeria, Madagascar, Gabon, Cameroon, Eswatini, and Uganda, implemented by the African Development Bank, by UNEP, UNDP, World Bank. Now you can contact any of those, plus other GEF implementing agencies. I know that UNIDO was interested at some point, EBRD inquired. This is a global program, not just limited to Africa. Some of my colleagues are here. Please feel free to talk to them during the reception or anytime afterwards. Thank you.
Okay, great. So with that, let me thank very much the panel. I thought it was super interesting. And I hand over to the moderator for the technical panel, who is Kasper Kofod Hansen, the Senior Technical Advisor, UNDP Chemicals and Waste Hub.
Thank you very much. So now that the program folder information booklet is there, they can pick it up. Program information page document is there on the table. People who don't want to know about the program, they can pick it. Okay. So I would like to now introduce the second panel, the technical panel. And I would like to first of all say that I'm Kasper Kofod. I work for UNDP, and it's an honor for UNDP to be part of the PCB elimination program, the global program that is led by the World Bank. UNDP has been working on environmentally sound management and disposal projects with GEF funding since the ratification of the Stockholm Convention. So we have done that for around 20 years now. We have so far been involved in 32 projects and supported 25 countries on PCB management, where the work has been ranging from strengthening the legal framework and enforcing the elimination capacity, undertaking additional PCB inventories, improve the PCB management practices, ensure safe disposal of PCBs in partnerships with PCB holders. And we've also been working on public awareness campaigns and working on communications. So for this second technical panel, we have 4 panelists. I would like to first introduce to Agustin Arte. He's a program officer at the BRS Secretariat, where he currently focuses on PCB data and inventories. He has over 15 years of experience developing and implementing national and international programs and policies for the environmental management of hazardous chemicals and waste. Agustin, please sit down. And I would also like to welcome Caroline Aguti. She's the Assistant Commissioner in the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Development in Uganda. She has held various positions
on environmental and energy policy and management in the ministry and in non-government organizations. Please. I would also like to introduce Audu Josva, is the Chief of the Environmental Inspection Brigade in the Ministry of Environment, Protection of Nature and Sustainable Development in Cameroon. And finally, Harinat Aparahugari is a Senior Environmental Engineer and Task Manager at the World Bank with a long history in managing chemicals and pollution projects. He's also a team member of the World Bank GEF Global PCB Elimination Program. So I would like to start with Agustin. If you could please give us some information or some updates on the work that you have been doing in the secretariats. What are the problems with the inventories? How much progress has been achieved? And how much legacy PCBs do we still expect to be out there? Please, Agustin.
Thank you, Casper, for that introduction and for our extremely important panelists here as well. And I'm happy to be here with all of you and seeing so many known faces. Thanks for making the time to discuss once more the importance of dealing with PCB management. I was told not to make a presentation, so I'm not going to break that rule, but I'm going to bend it a little bit. And I'm going to ask Edwin if he can just put on the screen what we are presenting in our BRS booth to respond to your questions, Casper. So this is 2 years ago, at the last COP, we presented a report on the progress on PCB elimination. We had preliminary data coming from national reports presented by parties every 4 years to the Stockholm Convention, every year to the Basel Convention. We have national implementation plans under the Stockholm Convention, which are updated periodically by each of the parties. We have projects database provided by the GEF, provided by the implementing agencies. And what we are presenting now is an analysis of all that raw data that was shown 2 years ago. What you can see here, and maybe if you refresh, I think there's fresher information than that. Hopefully it works. Yes, there is. What you can see here is what official information the Secretariat has received, for example, on how much PCB has been eliminated locally, almost 400,000 tons of PCBs, how much PCB has been exported, almost 300,000 tons of PCB, summing a total of above 600,000 tons. But the first step, as I was saying, is the source of information. So if we can jump to the national reports. Today in plenary, it was discussed, this agenda item, national reports. Just want to highlight that this is a very, very important tool for everyone and for the Secretariat to actually have the right information of what countries have achieved to implement the convention, including the elimination of PCBs. And you can see we have a normal rate of 50%, almost 50% reporting to the Stockholm Convention of the parties, and a higher rate for Basel, 70% for Basel. And this is the main source of information that we have so that we can assess what are the challenges, what are the needs for the countries. On progress on elimination, if we jump to elimination tab, and you can go then to the booth and explore the numbers by yourself. We can see that every year there's a certain amount of PCB that is being eliminated, and this gives us more than as I was saying, 600,000 tons. And if we see annually, yes, please, Edwin, we can also see that every year 30,000 tons of PCB are being eliminated globally. And I just want to remark the green bars is the Western and European countries, Western Europe countries and others. This region, of course, has a lot of movement, especially because they have reported contaminated soil as well, open applications that has gone through transboundary movements through the Basel Convention, and this is why we see higher bars for that region. But if we can open the map on exports, and this is something very important as well to recognize, many developing countries have not yet developed the technology or the capacity to deal with POPs waste, specifically in this case PCBs. And then, well, you can explore the map later, but you will see that countries have relied and mostly exported all of their PCB existences, and especially high concentrations, to the region of Europe. There's 20 countries that have received historically PCB waste around the globe and going to Europe for safe disposal, treatment, and of course also recycling of the metal parts and other things that can be recovered from the electric equipment. So again, I invite you to have a look at that. And going to the projects, I think this is important. As you know, the GEF, the financial mechanism of the Stockholm Convention, has supported parties to achieve these results. If you look at PCB-specific projects, there has been more than 100 projects, 113, 120 projects, focusing on PCB, updating the inventories, scaling up the technologies, focusing on PCB elimination, also funding some of the exports that we saw to Europe. The number there on the budget, please ignore that one, it's a glitch. But the GEF has dedicated almost $400 million, or some would say billions, $400 million on PCB projects with an expectancy of 150,000 tons of PCB being eliminated through those projects. Some of them, or most of them, have been already closed. Some of them are under implementation, around 30, 40 projects at the moment being implemented at the regional level, at the national level. And if you compare that amount expected to be eliminated by projects to the amount that has been eliminated by developing countries, is more or less 75%, something like that. So 75% of the total PCB that has been eliminated and reported back to us, Secretariat, has been done through cooperation and financial assistance of the Global Environmental Facility, the GEF, with the support of the agencies, and of course, leveraging, as Johannes was mentioning, tracking other types of investment, for example, for replacing the equipment, for training, etc. So just as a conclusion, and going to the last question on inventories, this is a critical thing, and I get this question every time. How much PCB is out there left to be eliminated? Well, I showed you the trend. 30,000 tons of PCB eliminated every year until 2023. We don't have data yet on 2024. And this shows that this is an ongoing problem and that we still have PCB out there. We don't see a decline on the trend of PCB elimination yet. We do see, luckily, a decline on PCB in the environment. That's another side event where you can hear about the global monitoring program. But I want to raise this issue on the inventories, and Jacqueline was saying in the previous panel that this is an important aspect. If we don't know the PCBs, we don't know the size of the problem, we cannot ask for technical assistance, for financial assistance to support the countries. So far, we have only 36 countries that have reported through their national reports existences of inventories. You can see in the map some of these inventories, and you can also explore the numbers. Some of them are outdated. Some were preliminary inventories that have been reported. I know that from national implementations plans, we can obtain further information to better have a glance at this number. But what I can say, and I'm not able to respond how much is out there, but what we will hear from this panel and on the whole side event is the actions that parties and stakeholders need to take to be able to answer that question at the national level. So I will close here. Sorry for coming back to this, but I think it was important to show the numbers in a way that can be digested. And I invite you also, Edwin will be tomorrow in our booth to further look at numbers at the national level. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Agustin. It's a very impressive database that you have developed in the Secretariat, and of course encourage all parties to report all the data to the Secretariat so it can be updated. We still have quite a task ahead of us. I would now like to introduce Ms. Aruti, and here if you could please share with the audience some highlights of Uganda's PCB story.
Thank you. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'll stand on the existing protocols. And because my minister is not here, I will take the opportunity to appreciate the government of Uganda, appreciates the support from the Global Environment Facility under the program, Global Elimination Program for PCBs, PCB use and elimination in Uganda. The funding shall enable Uganda to meet its obligations under the Stockholm Convention towards the 2025 phase out and 2028 PCB elimination under the convention. We are grateful to African Development Bank, who is our implementing partner, for the efforts that we have so far achieved. We also thank the Basel, Stockholm and Rotterdam Secretariat for the support towards the baseline inventory and capacity building and the best benchmarking trip. We also thank the regional center in Kenya for the coordinating the inventory project and our Stockholm focal point. The child project will support PCB inventory, safeguard aspects, manage sound management of PCB of contaminated oils and equipment, technology transfer, capacity enhancement, gender consideration, among others. The project aligns well with the commitments that Uganda has made in reducing greenhouse gas emissions from the energy production and consumption, in line with our nationally determined contributions for Uganda, and will support replacement of old equipment, reducing energy loss and improving energy efficiency in the country. So in terms of what our experience is, Uganda, like any other African country, we definitely have the challenge in terms of means of implementation to phase out and eliminate the use of PCBs, in terms of technology, financial resources, and also our own capacity to be able to implement that. So we definitely need support in terms of enhancing our capacity, but also the cost of associated with PCB inventory is high, because we definitely need to locate, test, and label the equipment that are containing PCBs. But also we have to ensure safe storage as we look out for a means of destruction. But also we have a number of stockpiles, legacy PCBs that are in private facilities like tea factories, mines, and tea factories. But also we also have a challenge of cross-contamination. And again, this is a common problem for many of the African countries, because when you take our transformers for maintenance, there is a risk of cross-contamination. But also the involvement of the private sector, because they tend not to disclose the stockpiles for fear of the replacement costs. But also the challenges with our databases, that we don't have very comprehensive data. And then the high costs that are associated with the replacement of the transformers. So what is our lessons learned? That we need to have a good policy and regulatory framework, and indeed for Uganda, our National Environment Act 2019 is lists PCB under Schedule 9 as prohibited and restricted chemicals, and this needs to be eliminated by 2025. So the regulatory framework provides for this, and we also have also domesticated this through the National Implementation Plan. We had our first National Implementation Plan in 2015, and now we are doing an update. But also we need to have a national PCB inventory at country level, and this is very critical for all countries that are going to be implementing this. But also there is need to create awareness. So we therefore need to develop communication strategies with clear information on the effects of PCBs, and we also need to have stakeholder engagement and participation. So you need to be sure to be able to map the different stakeholders that you're going to be able to work with across the board, and this has to include the private sector and academia on top of the utility companies. And the ministry responsible for energy, it is also very critical that we have synergies between the different ministries, the ministry responsible for environment and the ministry responsible for energy, because it is critical that your regulator is on board, because again, most of this information on PCB inventories lies with your regulator. So it is very critical that you have them on board. And you need to work with your Stockholm Convention focal point, because again, all the communications that will come from the Global Environment Facility will go through the focal point and your Ministry of Finance, because they will definitely need to give you a letter of clearance. But also your Ugandan, your Bureau of Standards, you need to collaborate with them. The other critical aspect is the choice of the implementing partner. And this is very critical. For the case of Uganda, we went with African Development Bank because of the component of replacement of the transformers. And again, you could clearly hear the World Bank saying, yes, they have existing projects. So you need to identify an implementing partner that can make you have a provision for replacement of the transformers or any equipment that is contaminated with PCBs, because then if you don't have the component of replacement, all the efforts that we are trying to do here will not be successful. So we need to have that, but also but that particular implementing partner has to have an existing project within your institution. The other issue is the aspects of capacity building. There is need to work with the relevant institution on capacity enhancement, on the handling of PCBs. And in this case, we have the United Nations Institute for Training and Research to enhance your capacity on sampling, testing, and inventory. But also you need to be able to identify the different laboratories in your countries, because you definitely need to enhance their capacity to be able to support you with the testing and sampling. And you need to have equipment, because when you're going to do the sampling, you also need to shut down. So you need to have appropriate equipment that you can be able to use in the field. And then the aspects of benchmarking. It is very critical that you need to benchmark from areas. For example, we visited a facility in Cali, and this actually enabled us to know what is actually taking place and what would be some of the best practices that we can learn from and replicate in our own projects. Licensing of transportation for PCB liquids and equipment. Uganda has a provision under the National Environment Act for licensing for pollution. And again, this is very important, but also there is need for sound management to avoid cross-contamination and contamination of soil and water, and also to avoid the health challenges, because again, this becomes very challenging. We have had reports in our own countries where PCB contaminated oil is being used either to fry chips on the streets and everything. So again, we need to ensure that there's sound management of PCBs. But also we need to pay attention to PCBs in open applications, buildings, machineries, in line with SDG 11. But what is also very critical is network and partnerships. We can see that the number of countries here that are have experience and have handled projects previously, and we need to be able to document and have an opportunity and a platform where we can all be able to interact, share best practices and challenges that we face. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ms. Aguti, and thanks for sharing the experiences from Uganda and some of the opportunities and challenges that you have been facing in this process. I would now like to hand over to Mr. Joshua. So you could please share the story from Cameroon, please.
Ok, merci Monsieur le modérateur de l'opportunité que vous donnez au Cameroun de partager avec vous l'expérience en matière de PCB. Greetings, it is my pleasure to present to you the Cameroon PCB story. Result. Acquire a gas chromatography, its accessories and reagents. Train researchers and laboratory staff on its use. A total of 1,264 transformers were inventory and 121 were analyzed with the L2000DX analyzer, and 621 were confirmed positive by the gas chromatography. 14 of the 18 contaminated sites were classified as priorities for an in-depth environmental assessment. The project built a 2,000 square meter PCB temporary storage facility, developed a national PCB communication awareness strategy and implement the strategy, dispose a total of 295 tons of PCB in 2023, develop a PCB decree, 5 ministerial orders and 6 guidelines, train 151 customs officers on the PCB import-export control system, because we developed an import-export application. We train 130 environmental inspectors on PCB regulation. Aussi, nous avons eu à développer une application géoréférencée pour l'inventaire des équipements à PCB. In terms of lesson learned, we work close collaboration between the project management unit and PCB holders. Awareness rising among top management of the PCB holding companies before submitting the project to the GEF. Establishment of a PCB technical committee responsible for monitoring the complete elimination of PCBs in Cameroon and providing strategic guidance for achieving country and convention objectives. Designation of contact points between PCB holding companies and sectorial administrations. Decommissioning of PCB equipment by PCB holding companies. Aussi, nous avons eu à développer un plan d'élimination et de décontamination des PCB au niveau international, dont chaque détenteur a son plan d'élimination. With regards to perspectives, in view of the large remaining PCB stockpiles, over 1,400 tons, and the target that set for the total elimination of PCBs worldwide, an exit PCB project, phase 2, was developed and validated by the GEF to provide additional support for the sound disposal of the country's remaining PCB stock. while capitalizing on the achievements of the previous PCB project phase 1. This new project is in its preparatory phase. Restoration for containment of PCB contaminated sites. Replacement of out-of-service PCB transformers with PCB-free ones and decommissioning of PCB transformers with still in service. Encourage the setting up of the PCB import and export management systems in other countries and make them into operational, operationable with each other. Last on les challenges et les lessons learned et aussi les perspectives en matière de gestion de nos nouveaux stocks qui s'élèvent à 1400 tonnes dont nous envisageons éliminer d'ici 2028. Merci.
Thank you very much, Mr. Joshua, for sharing the highlights from the program that you've been doing on PCBs in Cameroon. It's very impressive, the results that you have achieved there. I would now hand over to Mr. Harinat. You have a lot of technical and operational experience with PCB projects, including in Iraq. If you could please tell the audience how mainstreaming of PCB elimination into MDB financing operations would work and what countries should expect from the global elimination program on PCBs, please.
Thank you, Casper, and good evening, everybody. Thank you for being here. I think it's a long session, so we already run over the time, but thank you for being here for such a long time. So I've been part of about 7 PCB or POPs projects across regions, and then like many of you, have experienced delays, and then we commit to certain targets in the beginning at the GEF approval stage, and then when we end up actually completing the project, we achieve probably partial results. So one of the experience which I would like to share with all of you, which has been the trigger for the global elimination program that we are now launching today, is the Egypt POPs project. And this actually coincided with, in a way, it's kind of the positive side of COVID-19 pandemic, because this was being implemented during COVID-19 situation, where we were supposed to eliminate 2,000 tons of PCBs in Egypt. That was the commitment set. And thanks to COVID, nothing was happening, no bidders, no contracts, no progress in the project, etc. That's where we were forced to innovate and see how we want to do it. The second problem we had in this project was there are so many live transformers, online transformers, which many of you would have seen. Online transformers, when you go to the electrical utilities, they would say, sorry, we can't do anything because electrical supply is very critical. That's what, as we heard from Rolf also in the morning, where energy supply and then energy operations are so critical that PCB or pollution comes as a secondary objective in many of our countries. So to address both of these, what we comes, many projects have done it, including Casper's experience in many other projects, is to get an online treatment equipment right into the country, not through the vendor, but procured by the project, and then training the electrical utility engineers, not any vendor, but through the online equipment manufacturing company, train the electrical engineers of the electrical utility in Egypt. That's because, number one, you build a capacity, and then we had such a lucky cooperation with the electrical ministry of Egypt. We trained about 15 of them, and then this team of engineers using this online equipment were able to dispose about 1,000 tons of PCBs by themselves. And then beyond the project, that's another success story beyond the project, is that since they own the equipment, they were able to replicate this experience and then go beyond the project target and then do another 500 tons of PCB treatment themselves. So this experience is what triggered the idea of like how critical it is to get energy ministries on board. when we started talking together with BRS Secretariat and then GEF and then also for our energy colleagues, just to tell you, like many of you in the Ministry of Environment, even in the bank, me being in the environment department, very rarely used to interact with our energy colleagues on this project. Of course, we have lots of interactions with our energy teams, but on the PCB projects, we were doing like Ministries of Environment or Stockholm focal points. We used to work on ourselves. So this experience in Egypt is the one which triggered that. What's the benefit you get really when you really work, not just collaboration, not being in the technical team, etc., but really work with them and then understand how these things can be implemented when you work together. So that was one idea which you see, which is the main focus of this global innovation program that we are launching today, is not just talking to the Minister of Electricity, but actually working together with Minister of Electricity or utilities. That's number one. Then this online treatment, especially the challenges that we heard from Uganda and Cameroon also, is that we have these transformers. We know that they are highly contaminated, but we can't really do anything because utilities need these transformers to run continuously. So we do have this experience and examples at scale. We could have done maybe 5 tons, 10 tons, but Egypt experience shows that we can do them at scale. But the trick is not to just get a vendor to do the treatment, but build the capacity in the Ministry of Electricity or the utility entities, whatever we have in each of the country, so that it becomes more sustainable. And the third and last point I would like to highlight is involvement of the private sector. Again, this is an example. Unfortunately, all these experiences were in Egypt, is that you treating these PCBs wherever we have enough quantities and then industries which are sufficient, treating them in the cement kilns. Again, we do have feasibility studies, but in this case, we were able to dispose about 300 tons of PCBs in the cement kilns. So that's again the model instead of exporting like we saw in Augustine's presentation where most of the PCBs are exported to the European countries, which number one, in addition to the cost, involves the time because the approvals you need to get for exporting to abroad is a huge time consuming process. Many times it takes a year or so. So to address that, getting the private sector on board and then making sure that utilize as much as you can within the country to dispose them much more sustainably. These are the 3 features that we try to kind of scale it up in all the 6 partner child projects in this global program. And then I would like to invite you that in the second phase is something which we are trying to prepare. Any one of you, if you are interested, please do come in. The whole concept of this program is to make sure that don't do the conventional way of PCB program, what we have been doing, all of us, including bank teams, doing isolated PCB or POPs projects. Rather start working together with the ministries of electricity or utility authorities right from the beginning. And then we really see that speed and scale at which we can really achieve this PCB elimination. Of course, 2028 is too difficult, but as early as we can. So just to let you, there was a question in the previous panel. We do have information brochure, information note right here, and some other material for you on this table. So if any one of you are interested in to be part of the second phase of the program or even otherwise to know more about the program, please do pick up this material. And of course, we are available for you to clarify anything during the reception right after this event. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Harinat, and thanks for sharing the experiences and highlighting the importance of working with Ministry of Environment, Ministry of Energy, the private sector. And if you can combine it with the programs that you have on replacement of transformers, then it can speed up the process even more. I'm conscious of the time that we're a little bit late, so maybe if we can have one quick question from the audience here. Yes, please.
Yes, I feel embarrassed to raise a question since I am the most unqualified person in the room. But I heard earlier that the fault is on vendors, but vendors are not here. So why aren't they here? I'm a journalist, so I'm totally ignorant of the rules, condition, chart. Why aren't they here? Are they not allowed to be here even under the umbrella of an industry federation, or just they don't care, which I would be a bit surprised, but could explain why the first laws were passed 50 years back, and still we are at the doorstep of implementation. And I have a second question. Are PCBs only in the big devices, big transformers, or even in my Philly shave, I have
Thank you. Maybe Agustin, if you can.
Hello. Okay. So to respond to the first question, I think we have a couple of vendors hiding somewhere. But concretely, observers are, of course, admitted to the BRS COPs. They have to be registered for each of the convention. There are different procedures. And usually private industries are attending to our COPs within their associations. So we have waste, specifically hazardous waste companies attending as associations here. And I'm sure if you ask, you will find a couple of them. We have also other technology providers that are here in some of the booths, and they're showcasing their technologies here as well. So I think they're covered, but of course they're a key actor, and this is all about bringing all stakeholders together. So what I know from the projects that are the pilot activities, the child projects, they are involving not only the private sector but also other stakeholders, including I don't know, universities and the science. So I think this is an important, and thanks for raising this issue. On the second question on how much we have advanced or not, this is an important question. What parties have to do is to make the determined efforts, to eliminate the use, phase out the use, and then ensure the environmental sound management. I think we've done, and a lot has been achieved, at least in the last 20 years of existence of the Stockholm Convention. 2004 was when it's entered into force, and many of the countries have developed regulation to fulfill their obligations and the national legislation to fulfill these obligations. A lot has been done. The question on how much is something that is tricky to respond, but we need to work on that as well. The next assessment will be presented in 2 years from now, the next COP, and that we will need to respond first on the target on 2025, and then on the question on how much is left out there to achieve 2028.
My second question was not so much to blame the slow pace of implementation. It is not an easy task, but if there is PCBs also in each domestic device.
That was your third question, because you did 1, 2, and then the third one. So that was the third one. But you're right. Something that hasn't been addressed in this side event is the open applications as well. I'm gonna tell you that no, there's no PCB. There should not be PCBs in what was the appliance, but we might find other POPs. So we might find other POPs, no? So we need to take care. We're talking about specifically PCBs. There are many other families of POP listed on the Stockholm Convention, and we need to take care of those as well. But open applications is another important aspect, and we will work on that as well, supporting countries.
Transformers, small transformers,
No.
Billions.
No.
So this is
No, we don't.
manageable if there is PCB.
No, we don't need to raise that alarm. PCBs have been not produced in the past 20, 30 years. They had a specific properties that were specifically for electric equipment, transformers, capacitors, etc. In my own experience, we would not need to worry on these house appliances, but I don't know, maybe there's some other experience. No.
It's about recycling the old ones. How many million radios have had?
I think we can, with maybe a glass of wine, we can continue a discussion on that.
Yeah, thank you very much, Agustin, for the question here. And I also would like to say that now afterwards, all the experts from the World Bank and the other implementing agencies will be around here, so there'll be a chance to have additional questions. I would like to thank the panel for the participation in this technical panel. Can we please give them a round of applause? Thank you very much. And I would then like to hand over to Jürgen Vogele for the closing remarks.
Now, after that enriching discussion, we are at the close to the close of the session. Thank you so much for all of you to join and sit through. We were really pleased to see the turnout at this event. Thanks especially to our partners, implementing partners from UNEP and other implementing agencies. Thanks most to Rolf for championing us through this. Thanks also to all the organizers for helping us with this side event, from the GEF, of course, for the financial support. We count on their support to make this last push, which is in addition to what we heard, to the last and the major push that is needed. Speed is super important, given the timelines we are facing. Working together is critical if you have to achieve this. We heard a lot about what the environment side and how the energy side need to work together. And finally, partnerships, all the partners working together, we need to get the scale that is needed. So with that, I would like to thank you all again for participating and invite you to join us in the reception for the launch of this formal launch of this program that we look forward to implementing in the coming years. Thank you so much.